All right, Adam, time for a game preview. Week 9 for the Colorado Buffaloes, and coming off of a disappointing loss at UCLA last week, and obviously we know they've lost 4 or 5. They're sitting at 1-4 in the conference, and it doesn't get any easier. You got the number 16 team in the country coming here, but it's homecoming, and you get to be at Folsom Field, so there is that. But tough matchup this week.
Yeah, Oregon State is one of the better coached teams in the Pac-12, and they have one of the best offensive lines in the country, one of the best running backs in the conference, and so it's going to be a challenging test. It does feel like a game where if Colorado has an elusive, put it all together type performance, that they'll come out with a win, because Oregon State is a little bit in that overachiever mode, right? Where, they're well coached, but they're not, super great athletes top to bottom on that roster. And so it's a game where it's winnable, especially on your home field, but we'll get into this later, but I don't know if I can quite go to a win prediction.
Yeah, it is winnable, but it's also, to your point, it's one of those tough games, and that they have built that reputation under Jonathan Smith as they've built themselves on toughness, running the football, playing some tough defense, and Colorado. I know again last year was a different team. We know all that. We've talked about that so many times, but Colorado saw that last year. I mean, Oregon State up in Corvallis just ran right through them, and it was no problem. And they have that ability to do that. I think this is a better Colorado team, obviously, but that's Oregon State, right? Now, they are coming off of a loss, disappointing loss for them, but that's a team that they're dangerous, and that's one of the top 5 teams in the Pac-12.
I would think so. I would probably put them 4th right now if I had to rank the Pac-12 programs. And yeah, we got a glimpse of that last year. Colorado was feeling, for the first time all of the 2022 season, feeling okay after they beat Cal, and they had an interim head coach in Mike Sanford that had kind of rejuvenated the program just from a psychological standpoint, honestly, at that point. And Oregon State kind of did a boa constrictor on them. It was this slow, methodical death that Colorado faced out there, and they were doing construction to Reser Stadium, so we were in construction trailer covering the game, and we both joked about the fact that we listened to classical music in our cars. We didn't coordinate that. It was just after 3.5, 4 hours of that chainsaw noise going and the bass shaking the trailer that was the only way we could remedy the situation. But no, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it makes me feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State, what they're having to deal with as programs, because we did see that construction taking place and all the money that they were reinvesting in football out there in Corvallis, and to have George Kliavkoff and in the leadership of the Pac-12 really drop the ball was sad to see for Washington State and Oregon State, and I'm sure we'll get into that again when we go up to Pullman, but those fan bases don't deserve this. They're not as big as some of the fan bases out there in college football, but the fans that root for Washington State and Oregon State are some of the most passionate, and your heart breaks for what those programs are having to deal with right now.
Yeah, and especially this Oregon State program was down for a long time, right? And it wasn't too long ago that the Buffs you're beating up on them because they weren't very good. And obviously we know Oregon State in 2018 came up here and had that that massive comeback, but that was not a good Oregon State team. I mean, they had lost a bunch of games in a row. That was their only FBS win of the season. So that wasn't very long ago. That was 5 years ago. So I feel bad for those fans, because Jonathan Smith's got that thing going, and this program is pretty good. And if the Pac-12 was still around next year, that's a team that I would feel confident saying that's one of the title contenders in the Pac-12 in 2024. But now they're one of the title contenders in the Pac-2, I guess. But we'll see with them. But the point is, they're a dangerous team, and they're one that Colorado has to play very well this week. They've got to. We keep saying it, but I think they've got to get that run game going. They've got to help Shedeur. They've got to block better, and we'll see if that team meeting, or that meeting that Coach Prime had with the offensive line, does anything. He said you're going to see a better group this week. It better be, because Shedeur, I mean, he just got beat up last week, and this is another opponent that could do that to you.
Well, I do want to point out again that UCLA has one of the best fronts in college football. So yes, you have to run the football to keep a defense honest, and if you can do that, it's not as lost a cause as maybe some people think. And I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that offense line group, but I mentioned it on our early analysis that you have to take the approach that Coach Prime took in terms of putting your arms around those guys, because you got 4 games left. Yeah. Yelling and screaming at those guys right now that are already hearing it from every angle, that's not going to fix the issue. So I don't know, color me pessimistic on that end, but it can't get worse than what it looked out at the Rose Bowl, I don't feel like, because, again, there were times where Shedeur didn't get to his first option, and UCLA does have one of the best fronts. So I don't expect it to be quite that bad, but I don't necessarily have a whole lot of confidence in that group right now.
Well, if it does get much worse, I think Ryan Staub might be the quarterback, because Shedeur may not last. But let's get into predictions. The Buffs, this is a big one. It's homecoming game, 8 o'clock start. We have not seen them play that great in the 8 o'clock starts. I mean, they were supposed to beat CSU pretty bad. They didn't. They barely escaped that one. They're supposed to beat Stanford pretty bad. They were, and then coughed that one up and lose the game. So we've seen them not play their best football in these 8 o'clock starts, but they've got to have this one. We've talked about bowl game this week, but if they're going to get to a bowl game, this is almost one you got to have.
Yeah, you're venturing into must-win territory, because again, you can't go out to Utah 5-6. That's right. We've seen that too many times around here. It's going to be a tough matchup. I'm not quite as torn as I was a week ago. I just feel like when you have 6 quarters of football where you haven't moved the needle enough, I can't pick you to win a football game. Damian Martinez, like I mentioned earlier, is one of the better running backs in the Pac-12, and I was shocked. He only had 13 carries in their loss against Arizona last week. I would imagine that they're going to make more of a point of emphasis. We talk about Colorado needing to run the football more. I think Oregon State's going to try to do that. And so I think it'll be one of those boa constrictor type games where Colorado hangs in there and you feel like they've got a chance to win most of the way, but give me Oregon State winning this game 35-27.
Okay. I picked the Buffs last week, and I'm still sticking with 6-6. They get to a bowl game, which means I think they're going to win 2 more at some point. I don't know where they are, but I've got to pick a win because they need a win. So I'm going to go with a win here, and I think that they do come back and play better here at home. I think Shedeur will play better. He played fine last week, but there's not much he could do. I think the offense will be better. I think the defense can hang in there in this game, and they held UCLA to 28 last week. I think they'll hold Oregon State to 28, but get to 30. So I'm going to go 30-28 Buffs.
Is there anything that makes you feel more old than staying up to cover these 8 p.m. kickoffs? Because for me, it's a no-brainer. That's what really makes me think when I go, okay, I got a little bounce in the step today. I feel good. I'm not 44. And then I cover one of these 8 p.m. kickoffs, and then like Sunday I'm just like a zombie around our house. And so that's what gives me it's a litmus test for me in terms of my age showing itself.
Well, I was 44 a long time ago, so yeah, for me it's probably even worse. So yeah, Sundays after games like this are pretty difficult, and so I'm hoping that this is a better Sunday, meaning we get to cover a win, but we'll see.
We have such a hard job, covering football. I expect the smallest violins to be playing out there. I don't expect any real sympathy, but no, hopefully there's a good showing out there. It does kind of feel like some of the excitement is tapering off, and it's understandable when you've lost some games and you blow a 29-point lead, but things are still looking up around here.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll be back after the game to talk about it.